3, 2, 1. That was for all you guys and ladies missing the 3, 2, 1 count. So,
Okay.
Art Meza, Chicano Soul, how you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm great, man. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for coming out and doing this. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have you done any podcasts, any radio interviews, anything like this?
Yeah, it's been years since I've done either, but yeah, I was on Power 106 is Knowledge is Power. Years ago, Wendy Carrillo had me on. That was probably like 2015, so it's been a while.
Okay.
A friend of mine had a podcast. We tried that years ago, but today is something a little bit out of my comfort zone, so just giving it a try.
That's all. That's what we got to do. We got to feel uncomfortable at certain points.
Mm-hmm.
That's my main thing. I like making people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me the other day that every birthday she does something out of her
Oh,
comfort
really?
zone. So she actually has that long-standing tradition. I said, that's pretty cool. So here I am.
Amber,
it's not my birthday, but here I am.
Happy birthday, Amber. Amber wants to go skydiving.
Yeah.
For your birthday, right? This year?
Yeah.
That's on my list.
Yeah?
I mean,
say it every year, but
it's on my list. I'd be afraid of crushing my knees and all that, but
Yeesh.
Have you
It's
done
on my
anything
list.
like that? Like any extreme sport?
Nah.
I did once.
What did you do?
I did what is it called? Zip lining,
Oh, okay.
but in Dubai, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
off a 80-foot building.
We have to find that video
No, we
footage
found
and
it.
upload it. Do you have it?
Yeah, I have it.
You have it?
Yeah, can we see that?
Yeah.
Let's roll the tape.
Roll B-roll.
We're not here to talk about
my
me. We're here to talk about art.
We're here to talk about Art Meza, Chicano Soul. So, sir, your pictures, your photography is in a book, and it's coming on its 10th year
Yeah.
of production. So I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah, low riding. That's pretty much how I got my start.
writing. Okay.
I mean, I started maybe 2012, 2013, and my friend Santino Rivera, who was the publisher there, we were friends for years before that, but he said he had this idea to put this book together. Prior to this one, when Tucson or Arizona was doing the book banning, Mexican American studies, stuff like that, he put out a book as an answer to that called Ban This. Another Chicano, anthology,
Really?
literature anthology. Yeah. So then when he had the idea for this one, he says, well, I want to do something like Ban This, but it's going to be on low riding culture. So what I want to do is pair your photos, and I'm going to open, a call to submissions for poetry, short stories, essays. There's a screenplay in there. There's an interview in there. And so then, low riding came out. So it came out January of 2014, coming up on 10 years. I'm still so honored and proud to be a part of that project. And so when that came out, I had to get my name out there, right? So I started picking up, any show that I was offered. My friend Noel from Mi Vida Boutique, if you're familiar with them.
Noel.
Yeah, Noel offered me my first show
Really?
in July of 2013, and she's actually in this book too. So
Shout out to Noel.
yeah, she's got a poem in this book, and I think a photo also. We did a photo that went with her poem, Pachuca Princess.
Oh, nice.
So
I just talked to her today, actually.
oh yeah. So yeah, we've been friends since then. Yeah, so she offered me my first show, and it's just been cool to connect with so many people and
Yeah, it's
make
not
so many friends.
it's not just photography, but there's also some art in here.
Yeah, there's some artwork in there.
Oh, this is cool. Can you put the camera on me?
Uh-huh.
I love this one. No, on. There we go.
Oh, that's really cool.
Isn't that cool? Art by Lalo Alcaraz.
Yeah, so the good thing
Low
about
God.
this book is that you'll see a lot of familiar names. Luis Rodriguez, Luis Correa, and then there's like Luis Munoz from El Paso. There's names that you recognize, maybe some you don't, but all strong voices.
Yeah, this is just a collection of photos, art. This is awesome, dude.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so the thing with this one, being indie publisher, all grassroots, no marketing campaign, no money for marketing and stuff like that. So it was all on us to spread the word. We got invited to the Tucson Festival of Books in 2014. Had a great time.
Take a little trip into the world of lowriding. Cruise through the streets where sparks fly. Oldies are forever and tales of love. Lust and the law will tempt you. These are the stories behind cars and people who love them. Wow, dude. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Chicano Park right here in...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. San Diego.
Yeah. I love it over there.
Mm-hmm.
Barrio Logan.
Mm-hmm.
It is awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite places to shoot. And Chicano Park Day specifically, the last few years it's been closed because of COVID. But this was the first year that they had it, reopened. They had the festival going. And man, the energy was amazing. So much inspiration. Everywhere you looked, I had an amazing time. Sometimes I get in and out of, like little slumps, but being there that day, I ran into Noel that day too. But so it was just a combination of all the inspiration around.
And what was this? What kind of festival?
Chicano Park Day.
Chicano Park Day.
Yeah, the anniversary.
Okay, that was a few weeks ago, right?
That was in April.
It was in April.
Yeah, maybe third weekend of April.
Gotcha.
But being out there shooting, getting back home, editing, and just being happy with what I got that day, it's an amazing feeling.
So how did you actually get into photography?
Oh, well, the way I started was, I've always loved going to car shows. I've always, but I started off with like an iPod. I don't know if it was a Nano or one of those small ones with the camera. And I would just go to, car shows, drag my family all over the place. And their support, friend support. Hey, man, keep going. Hey, these look great, And it was just, you throw them up on Instagram. This was 2013. They had like barely editing software that I knew about. And I throw them up on Instagram, and people, a lot of support from friends, family. And that's when Santino came to me with the idea of the book. And at the same time, Noel reached out to me through Instagram and said, hey, would you like to do our art walk, July, And so when I went to go talk to her, I said, hey, well, my friend is putting this book together, and maybe you'd like to give it a try, submit a piece of poetry or something. She did. He accepted it. She and I got to work together on the photo that went with it. And around that time, I just tried to get my name out there ahead of the book, because I said, well, people aren't going to know who I am. When the book comes out, I got to take this, So I started to get offers to do little shows, art walks and stuff like that. And the book came out. We did actually, as a matter of fact, we did one of the readings at Mi Vida, packed the house, lowriders up and down York. It was amazing. That energy that you felt, like you still felt that high the next day, So I think at that reading, we probably had like at least 15 to 20 of the participants of the book there that night to share their pieces, so you have like, Noel was there. I was there. Puppet and Big Puppet from American Me, they're both in this
Oh,
book.
really?
Yeah, in different things. I think Puppet put a screenplay in there, and then the interview is Danny de la Paz.
Danny de la Paz.
He's Big Puppet.
He's Big Puppet.
Older,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
So he was. They were both there that night.
Wow. Yeah, all this is just, it's amazing. It's amazing how when people get together and mold in different areas of art and they work together to produce something like a book, a poem, an art show, like it takes more than one person to do that, and also support too. Without the support from your family and your friends,
oh, for sure,
have you telling you to keep going.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
because it was just a little hobby. It was just like fun, visiting car shows on Fridays, maybe Bob's Big Boy or wherever we would go. But with that support, and then with this book, it just really changed the trajectory of what I was doing. Because then you start picking up shows. The shows start to get a little bigger. Now you're doing a couple museum shows. You get to meet, artists that you've idolized from afar, and then they become friends, stuff like that. Like that's way cool to me,
Yeah.
So yeah, I owe a lot to Santino and a lot to Noel.
Have you always done like the lowrider culture? Have you like dipped into any other type of subculture before?
Well, the lowriding is where I started, and in the beginning it was a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
But then I didn't want to photograph myself into a corner and just be the car guy. So I began to want to capture the essence, the feel. If somebody was going to be at the car show that I was at, or the meetup, or the cruise that I was at, like I wanted them in a way to regret it, kind of like, oh man, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Like that looks so cool. Or maybe if they live far away, and another thing that people tell me is like, oh, that reminds me of home, and that's what I want to share. So it's not just cars anymore. Like I want to just capture what I see, share what I see, and hope it resonates with.
So like it developed, right? Like the motif of your photography developed over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you started in like 2012, you said?
2012, yeah.
Yeah?
2013.
That's a long time. That's
Yeah,
over a
yeah.
decade of taking photos.
Yeah.
Wow.
And where has photographing and being a photographer taken you from then? Like, do you do it now full time? Is it something that you do part time, or what are you doing with it still now?
Well, it's still on the side. I have my day job, but and I think the last few years I've kind of let off the gas in a way. I've become to be a little too critical of my own work, where it's like, if I'm gonna give to this photography game, if I'm gonna want to step it up. I don't want to just put out mediocre stuff. I don't want to just post just to post. Like I want to create art. I want to create things that that can maybe be seen in a museum, like stuff like that. So I get a little too critical. I post a lot of things in my stories that maybe I could be posting on the feed. But it's also opened a lot of doors for me. It's got me in the room with some people, like I said, that I've admired. This one of the best ones that I can remember is Frank Romero. Long time, Chicano artist, been around a long time. And he invited me one time to do a show with him, and it was at Avenue 50 Studios. For me, it's like it's showing my work to a whole new audience, right? But then at the same time, he tells me, bring over some of your work, bring over, and I had just had like frame pieces. So he trades me. He says, I'll take those 3. He brings out this print, and it was the closing of Whittier Boulevard, and I was like, I won that trade. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause those 3 frame pieces, and this is what I'm coming home with, But then not only that is the opportunity to, at that time, my youngest daughter, she was, she must have been like 3 years old, and I'm taking her with me to meet Frank. She's in his studio. She's drawing like in his studio. You know what I'm saying? So, but not only that thing, but like that experience, but to introduce like my kids to the cool artists that inspire me, and hopefully inspire them too. Like that's a win for me. So this has all been a blessing.
I heard yesterday that joy comes from human experiences. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately since last night. What do you think of that? Do you think that's partially true?
I think I really agree with that, because I think at the end, all you're going to have is your experiences. So hopefully you got some good ones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And do what makes you happy. Do what brings that joy, because at the end, that's all you're going to have.
That's what I love about photography. Like, it captures a moment in time that you're never, ever going to experience ever in your life.
Yeah, it's like the closest thing we have to time travel.
Yeah.
One of my favorite photos is one that I called, and for different reasons, but I named it American as Apple Pie. It was taken on the original 6th Street Bridge, no longer there. It's this one here on the right. Yeah. And so these guys here were waiting to cruise. Everybody was lined up. They were going to cruise from the 6th Street Bridge over to Lake. This was probably taken in 2014. And, and one of the reasons why we put out this book was to counter the whole negative stereotype that comes with lowriding, right? And so why I named it American as Apple Pie is because when you have like hot rods and car culture like that, it's American, it's fine, it's loved. But when you have lowriding, it's never treated the same way. But what I've experienced is it's all love. It's always family events and stuff like that, So one of the best compliments that I receive with this one is when people look at it and they say, I can hear the conversation. I can hear war playing in the background. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I love that. I love that. And, people, sometimes they see what I don't see. in my own photos, you know, and this is exactly what you're talking about. Like that's a moment that's never going to come back. That bridge is never, you know, it's not the same. We got the new one, but that moment is never coming
Yeah,
back.
it won't be the same. And you won't be able to capture a moment like that.
And I was across the street walking the other way, saw it, knew I had to capture it.
So this isn't
No,
posed. Nobody posed for this. Nobody said 1, 2, 3. We're gonna take
No
a picture.
way.
Nothing.
No, and I've done a few shoots and stuff, but what I love is the candid stuff.
Candid.
I love the honest moments.
Yeah, that's what I like too. That's what I like in photography, like moments that can't be recreated. Like, I mean, you can, but it's just there. You can feel that. You can feel the candid.
But even in photography, like when it's candid, the opportunity for the viewer to make their own assumptions of what's happening, right? Like it's led to their interpretation. And last night, I was seeing this this thing on TikTok, and somebody was saying like, look at this picture for a while, you know, what do you think about it? And it was like two parents, and they were standing like right in front of like an ocean, right? And the waves were really big and everything, and the man looked like he wanted to like run in, and she was stopping him, like things like that, right? So right away they gave you this time to kind of reflect on it and what you thought about it. And my interpretation to what I had, you know, initially thought was like, oh, they were having an argument, you know, maybe he wanted to leave, things like that. And then at the end they tell you what really happened, like the story behind the picture. And I know it's a little dampening the mood, but I mean, it was nothing that I had thought of. But I guess they were enjoying a day in the beach as a family, and their toddler had stood a little too close to the edge, like where the waves were coming, and a big wave pulled him in, and he was like out in sea, and there was no way to get him. Like no one was able to get him. And it was back like in the 40s. So the mom pushing the dad was the dad trying to get in there knowingly that if he got in, he would die as well. And I was just like, man, like, and I was reading the comments of like how everyone's interpretation of what it was completely different. And I just thought that was like, I know it was someone's pain, but it was also, I think, so beautiful that you don't know, right? Like just being the outsider in is like you make your own interpretation for what you see or what you think is happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's what art is, right? I mean, it's subjective. Like good art. I think good art is always subjective.
Yeah. I love art that creates conversation. Stories,
right?
Yeah, and that's, you know, one of the things that I appreciate is that I get to be a storyteller, like the people in this book. You know, like Santino, he's got a couple poetry books out before he put this one out. He's got his own poetry, short stories and stuff like that. Amazing writing, you know. And when he did ban this, he had found a couple things on my blog, and he put them into that book. But I didn't really feel like I belonged in that book. Like I wasn't on.
What do you think so?
Just because my stuff was just like, it was a couple of poems, but it was a couple of maybe just for fun. It was not something that that I really cared deeply about to like, oh no,
Gotcha.
It was just
for publishing type of thing.
No way. Yeah, so, but with this stuff and with these photos, I get to feel like in my way, I get to tell a story, and whatever the story is, that's to the viewer.
Right.
They can decide. But I've always loved old family photos. You know, we're the same thing where I'm looking at, I don't know the story behind them, but I know there's a story there, you know, and that's what I get to do with these. And it's up to everyone's interpretation. People maybe connect them with their past, with their childhood. Oh, that guy looks like my tío, stuff like that, you know, or whatever the case is, or my dad had a car like that. You know, they might like it for whatever, or connect with it, you know, for different reasons.
I have this odd, maybe even creepy
it's probably creepy.
hobby. It's creepy, but a hobby of I like to collect. I collect a lot of like old memorabilia, you know, like old cameras, typewriters, things like that. But I also like to collect old pictures. I don't know who they are. I don't, know a backstory. I mean, I like when things are written in the back or something. But other than that, I don't. And I bring them home with me, and everybody's like, "Don't bring them home. You're bringing in whatever energy you're bringing, that type." But I don't know. I don't believe in that. But I love picking up old photographs, and I frame I frame them. When I lived at home with my parents, I had frames of just like weird people that were not my family in like old pictures. But I love it. I do. I really do.
I think that's cool. I was gonna say it's like a 2 on the creepy meter, but then when you see you had them framed, I was like, oh, maybe it goes up a couple notches. But no, I think that's
It
cool.
went 2 to 10 real quick.
I didn't expect that.
That's okay.
No, but it's all good.
That's
I have them in my wallet. I have them in my purse.
Have you met my uncle?
They're on my desk at work.
I would.
So why is there such a negative? Why is there such a negative tone around low riding?
I think it's that whole.
Why?
I
Why
think
is
it's
it?
the whole. You're afraid of what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and then just, I mean, some people you're not going to change their minds, because I remember when the book came out, Santino and I were on a couple of we were on Twitter a lot at that time, and there are people you're not going to change their mind, and that's fine. You know,
What kind of people are these? Are they like what? Is there a certain race that's associated with them? Is it lifestyle?
No,
Is it
I mean, I wouldn't just.
age?
No, I wouldn't. No, I can't even peg it to
Yeah.
race or age. It's just going to be people of each race, people of each age. Because there are some people, you know, who grew up with cars like this.
Mhm.
You know, my printer. You know, his name is Frank Coiro. He's a white guy who grew up in La Puente. You know, older than me, but he grew up with stuff like this. So when I bring him images to print, he gets a kick out of it. Like, this is like one of his favorite ones. You know. So I mean, it's not just like one, but there are people who just. They see it and they don't like it. Oh, you know, they must have built them with drug money, gangs, they affiliate, you know, stuff like that. But that's not been my experience.
Has that gotten a little bit better as time went on? I mean, since you photographing this culture, like has the what am I trying to ask here? Like, is the negative like tone from low rating, has that changed like positively over the past decade?
Nah, because there's still going to be those people, but there are going to be. I mean, in some ways yes, but in some ways no. I think it's pretty much even. There's still going to be people that just don't give it a try, or you know, they just will refuse to look at it for what it is or enjoy it.
And you said earlier that people are they're because it's unknown. Like it's a culture that is so different from their own.
Yeah, but at the same time, at the heart of it, it's the same. You know, it's showing love for automobiles, and these aren't just like stock cars, right? A lot of them are blood, sweat, and tears put into. You know, they're like an extension of the owner, right? Artwork painted, you know, pinstripes, fixed up exactly the way they want it. You know, so I mean, a lot goes into them. I mean, it's a lot of money, a lot of time goes into them. These are not just like builds that you could just do. Or, you know, you just buy them. I mean, sometimes you could buy them just how they are, but a lot of energy, time go into these cars, you know, so I think they should be respected.
I wonder how long has like the low rating scene been? Do you know? Can we look that up, Amber?
It's been like around since the 40s.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Could be.
Could be. I mean, but then I think there are people that are going to say it was born in El Paso. Some people might say no, it was, you know.
Is there a conspiracy around when the low riding culture started?
No, but I think you know, different people want to claim.
1940s.
Yeah.
The lowrider car serves no practical purpose beyond that of a standard car. Lowrider car culture began in Los Angeles, California, in the mid to late 1940s and during the post-war prosperity of the 1950s. Initially, some Mexican American youths lowered blocks, cut spring coils, Z'd the frames, and dropped spindles. Z'd the frames. I wonder what that is. Do you know what that is?
No, I wouldn't have guessed Los Angeles. I think was it Española, New Mexico. I think they claim to be the birthplace of low riding.
Look at that.
I've heard El Paso at the same time, but that's another reason why I don't do a lot of podcasts, because I never want to sound like a know-it-all.
Oh no,
like that. That's just one of the reasons why I don't. You know, it's like I never want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that.
That's why I have a podcast in particular.
You're gonna do that for me. Okay.
He'll take the heat for
No,
you.
but I think that this is why Amber and I were just talking about this, about information and trying to get it right. And obviously media changes all the time. But with certain stuff like this, that's why we have the option to, search things, because we want to know like the history of things. We want to know, we want to get it correct. We want to be pragmatic about what we're talking about. And people listening can say, holy crap, I didn't know that the lowriding scene started in 1940s in Los Angeles, California. Mommy, did you know that?
Yeah.
What is this? Inside Alley's Lowrider Car Club. When was this written?
2021, last year.
Oh, it's pretty
Do you see from like when you
Pretty new.
started photographing lowrider cars to now? I mean, have you seen like because I always think about it, right? Like I love like classic cars. My dad has like muscle cars and things like that, and we've had growing up. So for me, I've always liked just the car culture in itself. And I always say like, oh, one day I'm gonna own one. One day I'm gonna own one. But obviously, do you see like a increase in like low riding, like lowrider cars, or do you see it kind of decreasing as the times kind of come in? Like is let's say like Gil and I's generation, like in our early 30s or even like late 20s, like are that demographic or age demographic of people, like are they getting into low riding as well? What do you see?
Yeah, well, I think one is I see it more, but I think it's because I'm looking for it more. I think to speak to the other point is I do see that enthusiasm go from maybe father to son or daughter, just being around people in the culture for about 10 years. The cool thing is that the friends that I've made, I've gotten to see maybe their kids grow up and now they own their first car, second car, stuff like that. Like that's cool to me. Maybe like I just posted a picture the other day of my friend Chris, who maybe I don't it was just his birthday. I don't know how old he is, but it was about like 9 years ago. Fast forward, now he's 9 years older. He was a kid then. Now he's maybe like 20 years old or so. And to watch these families grow, same thing with my daughter. She's 7 years old. A lot of people will tell me, I remember when she was born, now she's this. A few years ago, I was able to buy my first classic car, and now she cruises with me. My grandson cruises with me, and it's cool, So she's growing up around it. She asks me, are we going to take the Chevy out? Are we going to, so, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely you're kind of born into it in a certain way. Like these subcultures, you're born into it because it's more than just the cars, right? Because it's music. Like take for instance, a cousin of mine. He's had tons of different lowriders. He has tons of different classic cars, and my younger cousins that's their dad. They're getting into the same. They're working on the cars with him on the weekends. They go out to the Pomona Auto Swap Meet with them to look for parts, or maybe to even look for different cars. So I think it's definitely something that you grow up around,
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad had his share. They were old cars. He didn't have them fixed up or anything like that. He did have this one nice Volkswagen, but he had a couple Impalas, 63, 64. But it was my half brother. It was his dad that had like maybe a 53 Bel Air. He had a 53 Chevy pickup that I always thought was really cool. So my goal was I wanted a 50. So I finally got the chance to get one. My friend Larry sold it to me, and when he sold it to me, one of the things he told me was that he actually wanted to keep it. For sentimental reasons, he wanted to keep it, but he was glad that it went to me. And that it was staying in the family is what he told me, and I really appreciated that. And so the day that we got it, I didn't know how to drive it yet. It was manual. I didn't know how to drive manual. So my friend David went with me. David drove it back here. David says, hey, and David was happy that I finally got my car. And David says, hey, I got a set of white walls at my place, brand new. Do you want them? I said, yeah.
Wow.
So I had to call my mom and say, hey, Mom, would you mind driving the car up to the tire shop? So she was like, she was watching the news or something. She gets up And then she drive, and so that was another cool feeling to watch her drive, wrap the pipes and and
cool.
to cruise, And so then we get to David's. He's like, "Hey, I got this set of hubcaps," and he's like, "You're lucky because I don't just sell my stash to anybody at the price that I got it for." So he was happy, hooked me up with the tires, the hubcaps. At that point, I said, "I'm gonna have to learn somehow." So I told my mom, I said, let's go for it. I think it's like 11 miles from David's place to my place.
And what year was this?
This was 2021.
No, the year of
1950.
1950.
It's a Chevy. It's a Chevy Fleet Line.
Can we look that up?
Actually, the video is on my Instagram.
You have a video?
Yeah, if you go down a few.
1950.
Yeah, you might have to go down a few more. Because I used to have it pinned.
Maybe under the reels?
No, a couple more down. Let me see. Yeah, because that's the car, but
we're looking for the.
Oh. Yeah, it should be back up. That was my mom driving.
That's cool.
Yeah, so my dad had a 71 Volkswagen. And he didn't want it anymore. So the cool thing was he gave it to me. That actually helped me buy the Chevy. But when I brought it home, she took it out for a cruise. And, for her, it was like old times. When I grew up, they both had Volkswagens.
Oh,
my dad had a bus. She had a Squareback.
Oh, that's cool.
My dad just bought a Volkswagen, last week?
Last week, yeah.
What did he get?
60, I think it's a 69 ragtop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's funny because the person that he bought it for had it to his liking.
It would be further up.
Up?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, so even that, I think I was maybe 41 at the time, and my mom's still teaching me how to drive. So they and then so that's her standing with it.
That's it. That's
a nice one. That's a nice color.
It's cool, huh?
Yeah, I like that color.
Tell them about the backlight.
Oh, the backlight. What is it?
If you click on the one next to that one where she's standing with the car, I believe that's a. Oh no, I thought it was a 2.
So that's the car.
That's the car.
That's
it.
Nice.
So that was the first car show we went to. Yeah. Oh, there she goes. So that's her driving to the tire shop.
1950.
Yeah. That's like one of my favorite memories now.
It's a 3 on a tree?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So from David's, the thing is there, I don't know where exactly it is. I know it was pinned.
Look
You know what? It's right there. If you go out of this one, I see it there.
Uh-huh.
So now it's on that top center.
Top center.
That
This one?
That one there.
Oh.
So that was me just learning,
It's in volume 1.
I did that classic, like you see in the movies.
Yeah. Stalls.
First time driving 3 in the tree.
Yeah.
So, for her to be still teaching me things.
That's cool.
And we made it home in one piece. And there's a lot, going on. There are no side mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
There's no turn signal.
Was she yelling at you?
No. She was the best teacher. I was embarrassed because I was asking my friend David, you're not on live, are you? And so...
Try number 2. 3 in the tree.
There we go. Second.
Yeah, so I've gotten better since then.
What's 3 on the tree?
It's a manual transmission, and you've got the gears up on the column instead of on the floor.
Got it.
Yeah, the same thing, but just up in 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's weird. I've tried it. I've learned both ways, but 3 on a tree is just totally different because I'm used to the gears being down here. A friend of mine had a 1963 wagon. I can't remember what kind of wagon it was, but it was a Ford.
Okay.
Ford wagon. It's escaping me right now. But he had a Ford wagon, and he was teaching me 3 on a tree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my dad had he gave me one lesson. He had an 86 Toyota pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
Gave me one lesson. I think we got a flat tire. He never took me out again. so I never learned. And, now I think I'm pretty good now. But
Yeah, I had to learn out of necessity. My dad also taught me. He first it was my experience with the 300 tree with the 64 wagon.
Mhm.
Then fast forward just a couple of years, I bought a 1990 nothing no lowrider or anything, but it was a 1992
Civic or something.
Accord.
Okay.
It was nice. But everybody didn't like it because it was a 4-door. If it was a coupe, everybody would have been all over it. But and those are my Honda days, where I slam them on the ground, put exhaust in them, cold air intake, all the Honda stuff,
Yeah,
right?
gotcha.
They usually do with
Yeah. When I was in high school, I wanted a 93 Accord.
93.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the tail lights on that one. Never got one until recently, when I was able to choose my one. I got a newer one, but
Mhm.
I did own at one time a 94 Civic.
Oh, okay.
And I love that little car.
I had a 95. I've had an array of Hondas. I've had a
What was your
95,
first Honda? The one that you said right now? 1990 what?
a 92 Honda Accord, an XL.
But I would go for a 4-door on those.
Yeah. No, they were nice. It was a nice sedan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that. So 4-door. Yep.
That's what you had?
Yeah. But it was more where the Kelly Blue
I
Book
still like
color.
those.
I like them too.
I
I
still
like
like
I like the square body. It's nice. But yeah, so I had this was a manual transmission, and my dad, he was like, "Let's go on the freeway." I was like, "What?" Like, I barely know how to drive this thing, and he made me go on the freeway. He made me go on the 605. Good thing we didn't stop. I was driving in, I think, third for like the longest, until he was like yelling at me. He was like, "Put it in gear, put it in fourth, put it in fourth, put it in fourth." And I just left it at third for the longest, dude. It was funny. It was a good time.
Well, my dad did that to mine. He did that to the Chevy.
Yeah.
And my mom is my hero when it comes to like the driving and stuff like that. I'd love to get her cruising more often. But I went to have breakfast with my dad, and I told him, "Hey, would you like to drive the Chevy? Take it through Elysian Park." He didn't know that my son was driving behind us. He thought that the person behind us was rushing him. So he's flooring it in second gear, and I'm over here like, I don't know everything, but I'm like, it sounds to me like it's time for third, and I'm smelling it, and I'm like, dude. And so finally I'm like, just pull over, I'll take it from here. and so I think the next day on the way back from Elysian Park over here, I felt it slip a couple times.
Mhm.
I changed out the clutch the next day, and he felt bad. He apologized. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that was Anthony behind us." And he just thought the person was just, rushing him. And I was like, "Man, you failed me."
Those cars are so fun because they're just like toys. They're just like little toys. That's how I looked at any Civic or Accord, because they're just so like in that time
Mhm.
period, because I was chips, pre-computers. It was all, whatever was underneath the hood that you get to mess with. It was fun.
Yeah, if I had the extra money, I'd definitely pick one up.
Yeah.
I'd pick up a 93 Accord. I'd pick up another 94 Civic.
I wonder have you looked at what they're going for right now?
No. But what stops me too is the Chevy doesn't have crazy technology, but
Yeah.
the same thing with the Accords. Even like Preludes. Preludes were nice.
Yeah, I like
97
those.
Prelude. I love those. But yeah, if I could, I'd pick one up.
Yeah.
I
Me
still
too.
like them.
Me too. That's what I was telling. Right? Remember we were talking about getting old cars or something. And I was like, I want to get because I showed her a picture of my 95 Civic, and she was like, "You want one of those?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they were fun." That one was it wasn't a manual. It was
Automatic.
It was automatic, but it was still fun. I still had a cold air intake and all that stuff. And even though it was automatic, my friends will give me shit for it. But it sounded cool. I was like, "Hey, which one's louder?" I think mine's still louder than you guys. So
I want a 55 Bel Air.
that's what she wants.
That's
Classic.
always been
Classic.
the car I want.
Can you look it up?
Yeah, what's
Let
the
me see.
color combo you'd go
See,
with?
my dad should have gotten me that one. He tells us when he got the bug, he was like, "Hey, didn't you always want a bug?" I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I bought one. There it is." And he's like, "Gil, you know how to drive a stick shift?"
That's how he broke the news.
That's how he told us he got another car.
Yeah, he was like, I think I got another car.
I like
color combination would you go for?
I really like red, but I know it's like,
The red and white.
the cliche, but I like this one.
How many of those are still around? Like how I think about this all the time. How like far in the future are we gonna get to where these kind of cars are like extremely rare?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right?
Well, in Cuba, you find them everywhere.
That's right. Can they sell them? Do you know?
Yeah, so when they first opened to the US, that was kind of primarily what was happening was that a lot of like car goers and collectors and things like that were going out to Cuba because they knew that they had one just opened to the US and they were still like encapsulated with that car culture and all the cars that they were going over there and finding original parts and everything. It was crazy. I went in 2019 and every single car I rode was, I mean, you're talking about maybe 67 and down. Nothing newer than that. And if you saw a new one, it was because they were like part of the government. But I probably saw 2 new cars in my entire 8 days there. It was really nice actually, and very well preserved. And the paint was, the paint wasn't like amazing, like glossy, but you can tell that they just took care of their cars immensely. It was really cool.
Probably like stepping into another time.
It was. It really was.
Like a time capsule type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, it in its own form, because there were things that were a little more like that were modernized, even people, the way that they were dressed and things like that. But you can tell, like you could just see, like even structurally in like buildings, like just the way that they were structured. And you know how like back then they did like molding and they did designs and they did like the scrolls and all that stuff. And that was still all like in like, I don't want to say pristine, right? Because it's falling, but it was in its own sense. Yes, it was encapsulated. Definitely.
Hot rods, 2-door. What is that? Convertible, hardtop, custom, interior. What's all that?
Yeah, so they've got like cars and coffee over here.
We've been seeing that around
in
lately.
Chino and stuff. One time, maybe about a year and a half ago or so, 2 friends of mine and we showed up, and we were the only 3 with lowriders. So it was kind of funny to get kind of some looks because our cars were like the loudest of the whole bunch. But you see a lot of hot rods. You see a lot of new cars, a lot of muscle cars. But here we go, cruising. So to me, it's cool. I love that. I love my car, and I love how it sounds. I love how it looks.
And that's a thing. The coffee and cars. That's been a thing.
Yeah, they've got a few around here.
Yeah.
There's one at a donut shop, maybe on Edison, that they do every first Sunday, and then they've got one in Eastvale Classics that they do now. I think it's at In-N-Out over there by the Costco. So I enjoy them. I mean, when I can make it to them, I love going. If it's on a Sunday morning, I've got my daughter with me. She knows, hey, 7 a.m, we're getting up and going.
and it becomes a routine because I remember the Mustang that my dad had, the first one that, years ago when I was in high school. And it was like Monday we were at the car show up the street from the house. On Friday we were at, I think it was like Frisco's, or Wednesday was like Frisco's right there in Downey.
Okay.
And then every, something Friday of the month was at Bob's Big Boys, and then like Fuddruckers had stuff. And then if you wanted to go somewhere further, you went somewhere, because I grew up like on that side, so those were the ones that we did like weekly. And you're talking about like weekly, like we would just go, we would have dinner there, we would talk to everybody, we'd enter the raffles, people would walk around. Like it just becomes, I don't want to say your identity, but it becomes your identity. Your car is who you are for that while, or until you're invested enough to do those things.
Yeah, just like Art said before, the car is like an extension.
Yeah,
of
it's
yourself.
definitely an extension, but I think I try to like fight back against the your identity, because I want to be like more than just, because I when I came into this and I started doing the photography, it was that. But then now it's kind of cool because I'm kind of like on the other end now, where I can pull up into a car show, people might take a picture of me in my car, stuff like that. I'm on the other end of the lens now. Is where I spend more time. The people that I met while I was shooting and became friends with, family with, stuff like that. Now I get to be one of them, going to these shows. My daughter cruises with me the most, and she's 7. She gets to grow up in a little different than my older kids did, where they were on the other side, and I was dragging them to car shows, and when when I just started and I'm walking around car shows and people are like, what kind of car do you have? I'm like, I've got a 2016 Nissan Rogue, but now I can be like, well, I got this, so I'm kind of like, I'm one of you now,
Like, hey guys.
The respect level just went up a couple of points after that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Is the hot rod culture like in the same? It's totally different, right? The hot rod culture versus the lowride culture.
I think it's totally different, but I think you can appreciate both.
Right.
I mean, because at the end of the day, it's either a woman and her car, a man and their car, and the relationship, like the love that they have for the car, like
it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
So.
And I didn't understand that because I grew up around like the muscle cars, and then our next door neighbor has lowriders. He has like the bombers and all that, and I thought like, well, I mean they are right. They're the same, but we would end up going to different car shows because there were certain cars that weren't allowed in certain car shows and things like that. And I'd be like, oh, is Nick going to come to this car show? My dad's like, no, he has, his bomber. They don't let him in. It's not allowed. It's a it's a muscle car. And even now, like with the Bug, where we were talking now, I was like, oh, why don't you take it to the Monday show? Like the one that we used to go to. And he's like, oh, no, they don't allow Bugs. There's a whole different car show for them. And I was like, oh, that's...
Yeah, you'll run into that, definitely. You'll run into shows that have cut off on years. If your car isn't, this year, or if it's old or newer, we're trying to keep it to this. So, yeah, you'll run into that, definitely. And then if you go to a car show that's got, like, all types, you'll see, the different types of cars all parked together.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like, because if you want to spend your time with the muscle cars, you spend your time over there. If you want to spend your time with lowriders and customs and whatever, pickup trucks or whatever, you spend your time. But I'm all for checking out all the cars. I mean, maybe I'll spend more time with the lowriders because that's really what interests me. But, I mean, it's the same thing.
How do you begin to look for an event for your next shoot? Like, how does that process work for you?
Oh, well, I mean, that's the power of social media. Everything is shared. Everything is, right there in front of you. I think before social media, you really had to be in the culture, just plugged in with anybody who was participating and stuff like that. But now it's just like, the information's so accessible that anybody can just show up.
One person shares a flyer and
for sure.
like 100,000
and it can go like
people
wildfire, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier now. And there are some great ones. There are some great events, and then there are some smaller ones. But I mean, depending on what you're trying to shoot, there are plenty of car shows to go shoot. And if you just want details, if you just want to shoot like hubcaps or hood ornaments and stuff like that, you go for that. If you're trying to go for a specific event and ambiance or whatever, like then you go for, like they had the Zoot Suit Riot Cruise. I missed that one, but that's an amazing one.
When what is it called?
It's the anniversary of the Zoot Suit Riots.
That was at Little Tokyo, right? They had like
they had like 2 cruises, I believe, one Saturday, one Sunday.
Yeah.
And they cruise. I mean, I participated, and that was another thing. Like I participated in one year, I think it was 2021. Where again, I got to be like on the other side of the lens, cruising with my mom, and my daughter was in the car, and we got to participate. Where prior years I'd be on the other side, shooting the cars. So it's a cool feeling to be like on both sides. But I missed this year, but there are a lot of great photos that I saw.
Besides that one, what are other pretty significant?
Chicano Park Day.
Day.
Yeah, always one of my favorites.
I feel like there's so much that we don't know
There is.
about this type of stuff.
Oh, connect with me. I'll hook you up.
There's a lot of stuff going on, which is good, right?
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, but I've always enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on if if you do too. But
yeah,
we stumbled across one. Last month, the month before,
which
where
one?
we thought it was a lucha libre event. And it ended up being like this massive
Oh, yeah.
car show.
It was over there at the Santa Anita Parkway.
Oh yeah, Bombs Club.
Was it Bombs Club?
Yeah,
it
I was
Bombs
there.
Club.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, well, it just so happens that friends of mine and I, we did a 5K like a month or two before, and it came with a free pass to enjoy the racetrack,
nice.
you know, the races. So we said, okay, June 10th, we're gonna agree.
Was it June 10th? It had to be that day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was
Okay.
June 10th.
Yeah.
We all agreed to go to the races,
Right.
but then it just so happened that the car show was going on, you know. So we got there early, checked out the cars, went to check out the races, went back to check out the cars, and I remember Evil Cooks was there.
Yes.
I know you had Evil Cooks on, and I just missed them because I waited too long, and they closed up by the time we got to them. But
You
I
missed it.
yeah, and I saw that episode that you had with Alex, and when he was talking about he worked at Dia de los Puercos, and I said that's where I met him. I remembered
Really?
he worked at, because at one time I had some of my stuff up at that location,
Oh, nice.
at the West Covina location before they got Pomona, and Alex was a cook at that time. So I remember that's where I met him. He's doing his whole Evil Cooks thing. I always say that I want to try them out because their stuff is, you know, is interesting looking.
It's interesting. It's delicious. You have to get to them like super early, like in the day. When we first got there, I think the event had just opened, and we're like, we gotta go get food now, because if we wait any longer, either they're gonna, hopefully not, but they never run out of food. But usually, towards the end of the day, like everything starts to sell out. But usually at the height of like an event, peak time during lunch, that line is crazy.
Yeah, I used to see like what he was talking about when they do the pop-ups in El Sereno, and you'd have people like around the block. And I was like, man, good for you, you know. But yeah, that churro taco that they have, like that's been on my list for a while. I just haven't tried one yet.
You know what's on my list now is the lengua trompo.
Oh, I haven't seen. Oh no, I did see that. Yeah, just a bunch of tongues like just
Yeah,
hanging off.
that's
Yeah.
that's their newest.
That's a new one, right?
That's their newest thing, right, Amber?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that thing's
lengua
just
trompo.
what they had. They had the black al pastor,
The Poseidon one.
the Poseidon
the octopus.
that was there. But yeah, we were there at that event, and honestly, we thought we were just gonna go to the event for Lucha Libre, but it ended up being a whole thing. Like, we just thought that it was just gonna be some wrestling and some food vendors and some enchiladas, but it ended up being a huge thing with like a nice stage in the middle. There was vendors everywhere. Like, it was a good event.
Yeah. Yeah, the last time that I went to that event was probably like 2019. So I was excited to hear that was also going on. We were there for the races. We had a good time.
Did you win any money?
I won $14. Well, my daughter did.
Oh, there you
go. We only bet 20
Correction,
bucks.
Dad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won $14.
Yeah. No, we put down 20 bucks. I think, you know, there's 9 races. We did like $2 a race. You know?
That's what my mom did.
And it's just to have like a little investment in each horse, you know. So
Yeah.
my daughter went down the list. Oh, this sounds like a good one. This sounds like a good one. And she won on the second race. She won like 14 bucks. So from the 20 we put down, we only lost like $6. So I mean, we had a good time.
That's good.
How much did your mom win? Like $2 or something like that?
I think a little more. It was like
Yeah?
$6
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
My bad.
But she thought she had won like a lot of money. We're like, oh my God. And the thing is that my dad told her, go get tickets. And she's like, I don't know how to purchase them. And he's like, neither do I. Just ask them. So she says she went, and she said that the guy was like in a hurry. So she was like, how do I purchase this? And he's like, da, 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 da. And then she's like, I got so nervous that I just told him any number. So then she came back and she's like, I have the numbers. And then they won, and she's like, ah. And then she comes back, and we're like, oh my God, she won like hundreds of dollars. And she was like, I think I won $4. We're
Yeah,
like, oh,
that's
wow.
kind of what happened to us. I mean, there was an older gentleman who showed us how to use the machine, how to bet and place the bets and stuff. And then when they say, okay, whatever the horse was won, and we bet $2, and by my calculations, I'm like, I think we won $60. But when I take it to the window, it's like, here's your $14. Like, well, hey, you know, it's better than nothing. So I mean, we had a good time. $2 on each race. We probably only did like 5. I don't know how many races we did, but spent $20. It was worth it. It was good fun.
There's not many horse racing around here in Southern California. They have what? The Del Mar, Santa Anita. The Fairplex doesn't do that anymore. They stopped their racing in 2012.
Hollywood Park is gone.
Hollywood Park, I don't know. I think so. That's another. All of it satellite wagering now. There's restaurants in Southern California that have satellite wagering, and there's wagering like all day, every day. Like they wager horses in like Japan and China and all these crazy areas that still do wagering.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
It was.
You know,
No, it was good. There was a lot of influencers out there. There was Rockin' Chicano. Have you ever
heard of them?
Yeah.
I don't know them.
Rockin' Chicano? Actually, a cousin of mine, actually, he sells michelada for La Bomba Michelada.
Okay.
Cousin of mine, he does that. He had a stand out in Santa Anita. There's just so many like michelada stuff now. It's
Yeah,
wild.
you had the guy with the Michelada Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole event just on michelada.
Yeah.
Do you think that like events like that are gonna just get bigger and better like throughout
I think
the
so.
years?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've never been to one,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I think music is a big part of it. I don't know if I'm assuming they have music.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have guests, right? Like
Yeah.
acts. Yeah, the bigger names, and the next year after that, you get a bigger name. I think the whole event, then maybe you get more participants.
Yeah.
More, like you said, more companies making micheladas. It's only going to expand.
Like this year for Michelada Rumble, they're gonna have Trish Toledo and Jackie Mendez, and then another artist. But even too, like the soldies music genre is just it's getting larger, and a lot more people are coming out with songs from like roots of like the 1950s and the 1960s. I love it. Like
I'm loving it. Yeah.
we are in a good time when it comes to like Chicano art, Chicano music, Chicano photography. Like it's Johnny Murillo from Chicano Hollywood has this. I think did he trademark it already?
Yeah, he said he did.
Yeah, he trademarked the Chicano Renaissance.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, is what he's calling it, and I think it's really happening. It's happening with filmmakers. It's happening with music, with art, with podcasters. It's a good time to be
Chicano.
a Chicano creator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the culture is there. The beauty in the culture is there with so many people sharing it, with so many different people's perspectives, and just like we said, social media, and you're able to just see it and become inspired by what you see. I think it's beautiful. It's only going to grow exponentially. The music, like you said, even the food. People trying new things. The art, and like I said, like one of my favorite things is being able to bring my 7-year-old with me. The Cheech opened last year. We were there on opening day. We were stopped by a reporter, and she asked us something about like why we thought it was important to be there, on opening day. And I said, because I want her to feel like anything she creates will have a place on this wall, one day. Another artist that I didn't meet him in person, but over social media, Gaspar Enriquez, an El Paso artist. I've been a fan of his for a long time, and he asked me on Facebook, what did Sophia, my daughter, what did she think of my work? And I was like, dude, like what did your 7-year-old daughter think of my work? And this guy he's an older gentleman, he's been around a long time, and I was talking to him, and he sent her a nice little tile of one of his prints.
Oh wow!
And
that's cool.
So she's got a little art collection that she's starting. Another friend of mine, Tori DiPietro, somebody whose art, and Tori herself, somebody who inspires me and somebody who I look up to, is cool with my daughter. And so my daughter gets to be exposed to all these other artists and maybe fuel that, her own creative fire, So I love it. That's one of my favorite things is to know these people, to not only be inspired by them, but, hopefully my daughter,
The Cheech and what Cheech Marine is doing with that museum is just, it's amazing for artists.
Yeah, I think it inspires a lot of people, and I think it's only going to inspire more,
Absolutely,
more people, and younger people, and people who maybe don't consider themselves as artists, But when they see people on the wall that look like them, artists who look like them, they begin to think maybe I could, maybe what I created yesterday is art. And maybe, and just it feels that inspiration. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Do you ever feel like, because photography is an art in itself, right? But do you ever feel, or have you ever been told like just like competition wise with like someone that draws or paints? Like is there any within the artist kind of culture and world, have you ever felt that like where like photography and like painting are kind of like competing, or maybe one's more than the other or anything like that?
No, what I've seen is more photographer versus photographer. You know, and that's one of the things I don't get involved with. I don't really care for. But as far as like photography versus painting, you know, like my opinion, I think painting is like a superpower. I think singing is a superpower. You know, if you could do anything, like if you can control your voice and make it do what you want it to do, if you can pick up a paintbrush and make it do, you know, make your hand do like what you see, that's a superpower. But they're different mediums. They're different worlds, you know. I have friends and who are singers, musicians, painters, artists who draw, stuff like that. I respect all their works, but yeah, like I said, what I see is more like photographers hating on. I mean, maybe not so much today, but I don't think there's any room for it. I think, you know, everyone's got their own perspective. Everyone's. I remember hearing a photographer who maybe shot for Vogue or something like that. And somebody asked him, with cameras being so accessible these days, what are your thoughts of, you know, anybody picking up a camera where you've been doing this, you know, 40 years or whatever? And he says, well, photography is like a dance floor. Everybody's out there doing their own thing. When you look out there, you can see maybe who can dance and who can't dance or whatever, but everybody is out there doing their own thing. And like, what's wrong with that? You know, more power, because people are at the same time, they're telling stories. They're telling their own stories.
Right.
You know, you might not like the stories they're telling, but that's okay then, because that's not for you. You know, but just let people do their thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the overcrowded lane. It's more of it's not like for art and paint, like painting has its own lane, right? Like it's its own universe of art, right? And then photography is its own thing. It's not like one is, you know, different than the other.
Yeah, I think it's different.
Yeah.
But I think maybe, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but maybe in the whole painting world, there might be some artists who feel like, hey man, that, you know, that artist's work is a little too similar to mine. Same thing with, you know, photographers, but at the same time, like, my work is going to speak to whoever it speaks to.
Right.
Yeah.
And if this person's work is just like mine, well, it's going to speak to whoever, you know.
So kind of like podcasting, podcast is a podcast and vlogging is vlogging, right? Like they're two separate things that people do, that creators do, but they're just different.
Yeah.
Right? Can that be? Is that? Am I getting somewhere? No.
No, it's just drawn. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
don't know. I just say, you know, just
Is
do
it
your own
the
thing.
same? I don't know.
No, I mean, I guess what we're trying to say, it's not the same. It's not. It's an art form, but they're two different entities in
right, it's
what they
Right. It's a
consist
form.
of.
Yeah. Same with the podcast and like a vlogger on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's a multimedia, but two different arts. Yeah. I guess you're right.
Yeah. See.
Yeah,
Not
you
crazy.
got somewhere.
There we go. See, I just need some backup.
I'm backing you up. I'm trying to understand you.
You speak my language here.
Because you do like photograph, you know, people's cars or people in general and candids and things like that. Have you ever had anyone that's like, no pictures, or maybe delete your pictures, or is everyone just pretty happy to get their picture taken?
Well, I mean, I think for the most part, it's been a positive thing. But I remember there was this one guy years ago. I was vending, and he came to my table and he saw his car in one of the photos, and he demanded a free photo. You know, and I was like, whoa, you know, maybe if you would have asked a little nicer or something like that. You know, I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. I didn't, you know. But I think for the most part, because of the way that I photograph things, people are happy to see their stuff in a positive light. One show that, you know, for example, one show that I was in, it was at MOLA in Long Beach. And one of the gentlemen, as a matter of fact, in the photo that we showed on the bridge, that was a photo that I had up in the show. and he just happened to be at that show, and because he brought one of his cars, I believe it was the gentleman with the white hat, and he at the time he had a '39 Chevy. He was invited to have his car in the car show, so he got like he and the other guys who brought cars, they had like a little sneak peek access to the show. Walking around the gallery, he sees himself up, in the museum, and from what he told me, what I heard was that he was excited to, I mean, to be like, he didn't expect to see himself in there, but like I say, like, not necessarily just my work, but capturing this culture is art, like why don't we, we do deserve to be up on those walls. Like our stories are, like Cheech says, Chicano stories are American stories, you should be seeing yourself up on that wall, so I was happy about that, and happy that he was happy that he was excited to be considered art, or like, that frozen moment.
What keeps you going, Art? Like what keeps you plugging in your camera, taking your gear out to events? Like what keeps you going?
Well, that's kind of like a tough question, because I think the last couple of years, I've kind of transitioned into telling more of like my kids' stories. Like I said, a few years ago, I was going to show after show, dragging my family, from one car show to the next, always just trying to collect shots. And then later on, things changed, and then I'm like, now I've got a 2-year-old grandson. My daughter, she's 7. I try to spend more time with them, because, like, as we know, like, you can capture these moments, you can freeze them, but at the same time, like, you can't freeze time. Like,
Yeah.
they're gonna grow up. So, what I'm trying to do too now is tell their story. Maybe one day they'll want all these photos that I take of them. But I think what kind of gets in my way is, like I said earlier, is that I get a little too critical with my work. Like, if I'm gonna add to photography in general, like, I want to take it up a notch. I always want to do something better than I've done. I want to tell a better story with each photo as I go. So I think a lot of the times I get in my own way. I've got to find the motivation. I've got to hold on to it, because sometimes it's just like I back off, but I really got to stick with it. I've got great friends who advise, give me great advice all the time. And it's just like I hear their voices in my head, like telling me to keep going. My friend Mickey, who I saw the other day, told me a few years ago, she's like, you got your foot on their necks. You got to keep it there. You got to keep going. It's like, oh, I got to keep going. But like I said, when I went to Chicano Park, that really fueled the fire, because, everything was beautiful. The culture. And like we said, I'm not really the type to ask you, hey, do you mind if I take your photo? And I know that when you don't do that, you miss out on a lot of opportunities, because sometimes they have like this great look, they're dressed the way they're dressed, whatever. But I don't really like to bother people. I like to do the candids with the zoom lens, across the street, But this year at Chicano Park, there were times where I just had to, step out of the comfort zone, and I saw like a dad with his daughter. I saw a mom with her son, and I had to ask them, do you mind if I take your photo? And those were a couple of my favorite ones that I got that day. So coming back from San Diego, I couldn't wait to get home, sit down, edit. And as I'm going through what I got, I'm like really getting pumped up, but the trick is to now, like, just to hold on to that, I'm trying to just outdo myself, and I shouldn't be so, critical on my own work, but sometimes that's how it is.
But I think that's just creators in general. We're always so critical of our own work. But I mean, the cool thing about you, Art, is that you're looking for what's the next level? How can I level up from this, right? Like what can I do better next?
Yeah, I just want to tell better stories. After, coming to like, hey man, I think I'm okay at this. I think I'm doing pretty good. Every photo that I post, I want it to be a story. I don't want to just take a picture of a car, post a picture of a car. I want people to look at that photo. If it's going to be framed up somewhere, I want people to start a conversation around it, because anybody can just, take a picture of a car and post it up. I don't want to do that. I want to do better and do better and do better. But then I end up like not doing so much because I'm not doing better. So it's kind of like,
What do you got in store for Chicano Soul? What's in the future for what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I'd like to get into more museums. I've done a few museum shows. I've got some stuff at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. They've got some of my stuff in their gift shop, which is cool. It's been there for a few years. A lot of people hear my work from them. So recently I went to go talk to the Cheech about putting up some of my stuff in their gift shop. I think it fit really well. Eventually, maybe one day have some stuff in the museum. I think my daughter would love to see that. But yeah, it's just I just got to find that motivation to keep sticking with it. And it's kind of tough because, like I said, my kids are getting older. My grandson, blink of an eye, he's 2 now. I'm trying to spend as much time as I can with him and my daughter. So it's finding that balance now. Before it was just photos, and now it's just like these kids aren't getting any younger. So it's all finding that balance.
Find the balance between
But
your
that's
art
life,
and
right?
yeah. Find the balance between art and your passion and your family. That's sometimes the hardest.
Yeah.
That we do. I mean, but you looking from your photos, man, you're telling great stories as it is.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what the future is gonna look like in the next couple of years.
But there are a lot of great storytellers.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great photographers who inspire me. This guy here, I had to ask him for his photo, and then there are a couple more down that you'll see, like the ones that I was talking about.
There he is.
There's the father and his daughter, and then there's the mother and her son. Like, I love that, the smile that she had.
Look at that.
Oh, boy.
Look at him.
They're matching and everything.
I think there's one below that. So that one was like a collection of.
This one?
Yeah, the one in the center. That's pretty much like all the photos that I got that day. So I think that one you can scroll through, right?
Yes.
Oh, no. That was a short video from the morning of. And I love to get there at that time when the cars are rolling in. Not so many people out. This year got really packed. But the cool thing about this one, it was kind of like a reunion where I saw a lot of friends who I made when I started. And now it's like 10 years later. And it's good to see them. It's good to be back. It's good to be shooting and feeling creative.
You think there's going to be another 10, 20 years of this culture?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah?
For sure.
It's not going anywhere?
No, it's not going. It hasn't. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's been a very long time, huh?
This guy here, Carlos, he's my neighbor. He lives like 2 blocks over from where I do. And it's, that's how I make friends now, at my age, He brought his car by one day, checked it out, and then we took mine out. We both, we just cruised over to, and that's my friend David there and his wife Raquel. I've known them pretty much as long as I've been doing this. And so now to not be photographing them and their cars, but to be cruising with them is very cool,
Do you have what's the next thing? What do you have coming up?
That's I just said it real quick. That's a picture of my grandpa there. Recently, maybe like 6 months ago, something like that. I took him for a cruise.
Oh yeah,
in my car, and he loved it, And I mean, he's 94. No, yeah, he's 94, and just showing him a picture of my car, he knew the year, he knew the model. He said his favorite thing about old cars was no seatbelts, and I was like, oh my goodness. So he rode shotgun, and we cruised around his neighborhood. He had a good time. Wow. So to be able to like create these memories with my family,
yeah,
and so that's my mom there, my daughter, and when I lived in Boa Heights when I was growing up, George's was like one of my hangouts. I lived like a half block. So when my friend Armando was putting on this car show, like I knew that I had to go and take my mom with me. So that was a 3. LA Reflections on Instagram, he took this photo of us. That dude is an amazing storyteller.
Who's this?
He goes by LA Reflections.
LA Reflections.
Yeah, he's tagged there.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Lens of a couple months back.
Yeah, so I know my mom loves it. Just cruising. I love to watch her drive.
What happened here?
I don't know.
Oh, we'll look at it later.
But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who inspire me, and not just photographers. I love, especially when younger people know what they want to do and they're going after it. I've got, you know, a couple older kids, and I love that. Musicians, painters, you know, it's inspiring to me.
There's so much that are tapping into, like photography, painters, artists, musicians, like I was saying earlier before about the Chicano Renaissance. There's just so many filmmakers, like directors of photography. It makes my head spin of all these different types of content creators
Yeah, I
that
think it's exciting.
it's just wild.
Yeah, I went to watch a couple plays recently. They had some plays and then they had like short films, and it's cool, you know, to watch it, to listen to those voices, and everyone's got their story to tell and their way of telling stories. Musicians, the way they write their songs, their stories, their personal experiences. I love that. You had Maria Sanchez on here.
Yeah.
And one of the first times that I got to sit down and talk with her, like I had so many questions. I was just so like interested in maybe the writing process, what goes into it. Like how do you get your story out? You know, she's one of my best friends, and I just, it's so exciting because there's a lot that's gonna, like you said, there's so much that's gonna be created.
Shout out to Maria Sanchez actually for connecting us in that lead.
Yeah, she told me, she's like, you got to do this show. So I'll give it a try.
It wasn't too bad, right? It was fun.
No. What are we at? What's the time? Just because you brought it up.
We're at an hour and 16.
Oh, damn, that's cool.
But yeah, like there's just so much things going on.
Oh, it's exciting.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, because I think in the last maybe 4 years or so, I started to really go to like more live music events. I started to learn about different, you know, bands, and just, you know, the Monophonics is one of my favorite ones. Maria's got some good stuff. Sacred Souls is another one. You mentioned Trish. My daughter is a singer. She was with the Lakesiders. She's doing her own thing now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I love music, so I love to hit these different events, you know, and I'm just excited. Like when I hear like one of the bands I like is going to be playing, I'm there, you know. It's exciting. It's fun.
I grew up with the Midnighters. My dad would listen to them all the time, and I remember being like 13, 14 years old, and they were like on this flyer for like some park in Whittier and Uptown Whittier, and I was thinking, I was like, whoa, like back then I didn't really know much of like that music or that genre, but it was wild to me because my dad was listening to this in his car, like him growing up too, and to actually be able to go to a park to see them play live. It was mind blowing.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, my parents grew up listening to their music. My mom told me at one point her Uncle Frank hired the Midnighters, maybe late 60s,
really,
to play at one of his kids' confirmations or birthday parties, stuff like that. I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago or so, I see Willie G wearing one of my caps that I put out.
Really?
It said Chicano Soul on the top, you know. And to meet him, to photograph him at different shows was amazing. Like you said, like that connection that my parents grew up, and my parents are just about his age, maybe a little bit younger, but they'd go to your shows. Same thing with Los Lobos. They were around since they started. And then now to be able to, like, you know, for him to recognize me, I ran into him a few months ago in Old Town San Diego, and I had to go and bother him. He was having breakfast, but I had to go say hi. And for him to remember like who I am, dude, like there's no Chicano Soul without Willie G, you know, in my opinion. So like, man, I appreciate that. So I mean, to me, it's mind blowing. Like I said, like just the position that my photography has put me in, the doors that it opens, the people that I've gotten to meet, you know, because I can take a photo, you know, it's cool. I saw him recently at La Puente Park. I had my daughters with me, and to share that experience with them meant something to me, you know?
Yeah. It's just we have ourselves to thank for the different positions that we put us in, whether they're negative or positive, right? I think we've taken the steps in within our own like creative like responses, and we gotta be grateful for like where we put ourselves, because I mean it's your little decisions along the way that that you took to get to where you are now.
Yeah, there's a saying like that, right? Like my life is the sum of all the decisions that I've made.
There we go. I think that's what
I
it
just
is.
made it up, but
Hey, I like it. I'll take it.
But it's true, right? Because everything that you've decided, every decision you made has, like you said, has led you to where you are.
Yeah.
And just recently,
everything, even whether it's good or bad, like you have yourself to blame.
Well, I mean, sometimes there are decisions that were made for you. Like I've thought
Could
about
be,
that too, that have changed your life or your trajectory, and you had nothing to do with them. But at the same time,
Ultimately, yeah.
At the same time, there are a lot of things that I said no to that maybe worked for me and it was a good decision, or maybe something I said yes to, maybe it wasn't a good decision. But
I guess ultimately the decision is how you deal with
it's
things,
the choice.
right? It's the choices that you can make. Because, yeah, something can be made for you or something happened to you and it's not your decision. But it's how
you deal with it.
Move forward or deal with the situation.
Yeah,
Our choice.
I think there's also another quote. I didn't make this up. Maybe I made it up right now. But it's happiness is not it's happy. What is it? I wrote it down somewhere. It's something like happiness is not
You made it up.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's really good, but there's one word that I'm missing out, and without that one word, the quote is ruined. Anyways.
Well, we've got some time for you to find that.
Right. But it's like I wrote it down. Without that one word, without it, like it just.
Happiness and joy.
No, it's like happiness is not the blank of problems. It's the way on how to deal with problem. It's not, happiness is not just having no problems at all, right? That's not happiness. Happiness is having problems and
how you deal with them.
And how you deal with them. It's something like that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll find it for the next time because I ruined that one.
My older daughter. As a matter of fact, I got to give a shout out to my daughter Brianna. Her birthday's tomorrow.
Aww,
she turns 26. But she lately has really gotten me to think about like the power of positive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So she sends me book recommendations and stuff like that. So it's a lot of stuff that I'm listening to lately, and I appreciate that because I get to connect with her.
Yeah.
When she sends me her music that she's working on. A few years ago, she had a song called Parachute. And when she released that song, she sent it to me. I'm listening to it, but I had that Nissan Rogue, so I couldn't really cruise to it the way I wanted to cruise to it, But now she sends.
Like, what did she say?
Yeah, I mean, I could hear it, but it's like it's not really a car that you're like cruising in, But now she sends me music. I get to cruise to them. I get to like really listen to them and give her my feedback. So we get to connect in different ways with the music, with book recommendations. I really appreciate that. But yeah, the power of positive thinking, like we're saying, it's all on how you deal with things, how you view things. Do you want to be a victim all the time, or do you want to have, do you want to think positive,
Yeah, it's not I got to find that word, but it's not the extinction of problems. It's how you deal with them and how you react to certain situations, or excuse me, how you respond to things.
Yeah.
It's not reaction, because from what I read like a few months ago, like reacting to something is totally different than responding.
Do you remember what you were reading?
Who was that? I think it was like something Maxwell. Can't remember. John C. Maxwell. I think it was John C. Maxwell or Mark Manson. Mark Manson's a great author. He wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote that one. That one's really good. Who else is really good? Norman Vincent Peale. He's also a good old-timey. These are old-timey guys that wrote books like 120 years ago, but the concepts,
the message is still
the concepts are still that you can use. You can use now. Any other books that you've
Well, she's got
read
me
recently?
reading Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza?
Yeah, The Power of Positive Thinking, Becoming Supernatural. What I do is I listen to podcasts or audio if I'm on the treadmill or something like that. I'll try to listen. I wish I put more time into reading. Years ago, I worked for the library department, so books were like, they came in all the time. That looked interesting. I'd put it on hold, you know.
Yeah.
All the Michael Connelly books and stuff like that, like crime fiction and stuff, read them all. A lot of Chicano literature, I've read them. Luis Rodriguez, love his books. Always Running was the first one that I read back when I was, a teenager. But Music of the Mill is probably my favorite one of his. Victor Villaseñor is another one. Love his books. I wish I had more time to devote to reading these days, but for now, audiobooks will.
I gotta tap into the Chicano art scene, at least with literature. I gotta tap into that. Oscar from My Grito, there's this one book that he sent me that I still need to pick up and listen.
You know which
to.
one? It is?
I'm trying to remember.
I'm actually meeting with him tomorrow.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I spoke to him a couple weeks ago. He bought a couple of my prints, so we're gonna meet up. We might meet up at the Cheech. I'm not too sure, but I'm looking forward to it. I've never met him in person, but should be a good.
Okay, ask him tomorrow,
Okay.
so you can text me and tell me the
All
book
right.
because I totally can't. I can't remember.
I think he sent you a screenshot.
A screenshot of it, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I keep on. Every time he brings up a book, and I ask him again, like, "Hey, what's that book called?" But I never look it up, ever,
You're gonna edit that out, right?
never.
That he never looks it up.
No, we don't edit things here. At least towards the end. But yeah, it's just there's so many stuff out there, dude.
Yeah, it's a beautiful time. There's gonna continue to be more. Like I said, I want to get into like I said, acting. I mean, I don't want to get into acting, but I want to go watch more plays. I want to go watch more short films.
Chicano Hollywood, we gotta get Art Meza in some films.
Oh, I don't know about in films. But,
He wants to see them.
as a matter of fact, I've had my photos in a film.
Oh, okay.
Director Ben Bray, he did a movie called El Chicano. I believe it was 2018 came out. Chicano superhero type movie. He called me up one day and he said, what he wanted to do was use my photos in one of the scenes. It was going to be a nightclub scene, and what they were going to do is they were going to make like light boxes. And so I sent him some files. A few months later, the movie comes. He sent me like videos when they were shooting the scenes. I would see the photos up on the wall. Then when the movie comes out, he sends me tickets to go see the previews or the screenings, and then I get to see them on the big screen on the on the credits. Big
Yeah.
Thank you too.
Oh, that's cool.
It was super cool just to be sitting there. And so I'm sitting at one of the screenings. George Lopez was one of the. He was like a supporting role in that film. But at the end of the screening, Ben gets up and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to, give a big thank you to Art Meza. He's in the audience." And I was like, "Whoa,
Wow.
cool." So
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, at least for me, most people don't think about. I mean, you think about photography and photos, and but there's more to that. Like there's more ways that photos can be shared, other than on Instagram and TikTok, right? I mean, because other than like movies, like photos can be in movies, like what, and photos can be in books, photos can be anywhere. Where else can they be found?
I've been able to use like one of my photos. So one of the authors or one of the writers in this book is Luis Urrea. Badass dude, very well-known writer. But at the same time, when you speak to him, the way he talks to you, he's like one of your homeboys, like just like you, real down to earth, real cool. He came to me with the idea to use one of my photos on one of the covers of his books, a poetry book. Cool for me. Like so many people are going to see my photos. So I've been able to do a couple book covers using my photos. Other people have come to me with the idea to use my photos for like CD, like oldies compilations.
Oh, wow.
So I've got like 3 of those under my belt, which is like cool because the last one they actually released it on vinyl. So I like to collect, LPs, 45s and stuff like that. So of course I had to buy a copy for myself. It was my friend David's car. I got a copy for him. But yeah, to be able to have your photos on different.
Whose music is it?
It's a bunch of older artists.
Oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
was just like a compilation,
A
Of
compilation.
different stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
they did like 3 different volumes. One time, I don't know, it's probably like 2014. War got a hold of one of my photos, and they used it to, of course, they asked me for permission to use it to promote their tour dates.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, you guys are War, like,
Wow.
like one of my favorite bands,
Yeah.
of course. And they're like, yeah, we really feel like your work embodies, our message, what we want to say. I'm like, dude, take it, So on their website, they credited me and put my Instagram where they're like, visit his website. I was like, dude, that so it's cool. Another time on Twitter, just throwing it out there, I asked George Lopez because he's got a 51 Fleet Line, nice Mexican flag on the top, and I just threw it out there. And maybe he'd reply, maybe he wouldn't. And I said, hey, George, when are you going to let me shoot your Chevy? And so he replied, and he says, well, come to my golf tournament. I said, oh, dang. So I got the day off, went down there, took a little stool with me, and because I wanted a photo of that roof, So I did that. He loved the photo. What we ended up doing was creating a couple of, we did a limited edition set of prints. We did 25 prints. He signed them. I signed them. And then we sold them, and then a portion of the proceeds went to the George Lopez Foundation, which is for helping people find kidney donors and stuff like that, kidney health. So I mean, it's been cool. Like I've been able to have fun with it at the same time. Another time, like when these books came out, he invited me to one of his shows, and he said, "Bring a bunch of books. I'll sign them. We'll put them at the merch table." Like not one book sold. But he also gave us like VIP tickets. So like we had a blast, at his show. I didn't care that none sold. It was okay. We had a good time at the show. So I've been able to have fun with it at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that what keeps you going too? Is like just having fun and not trying to take yourself too seriously?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because my journey is going to be what it's going to be.
Right.
I'm going to get to where I'm supposed to get when I'm supposed to get there. I'm not worried about that. Like this is not, my day job. I'm not really depending on this, but I can have fun with it. Like I said, it opens doors. It introduces me to people. It gets me in the room with people. I'm just doing my thing, and somebody will say, hey, I really like your work. Maybe you can help us out with this. And I'm always down to help somebody out and just create. If they think I can help them create, well, let's create. Let's do something, So it's gotten me to, it's opened doors and introduced me to a lot of cool people. And I just have fun with it. And like I said, when I could bring my kids around, my youngest especially, that's a whole nother win for me. So it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm just having fun on the way.
Art Meza, Chicano Soul,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for coming
Yes, sir.
out and
Thank
doing the podcast.
Thank you so
Appreciate it,
much.
dude.
I appreciate you guys.
So
Thank you.
tell us where we can find you and what you
Well,
got coming up.
You can find me on Instagram at Chicano_Soul. There's a link there to my website if you're interested in copies of lowriding or prints. I offer prints in loose and limited editions. You could always reach out to me. We could work on something cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, but thank you for having me on.
Yeah, dude.
Painless.
Check out his page on IG and follow him. Like a couple of his pictures. Like all of them.
Yes.
Comment on all of them.
Buy his prints.
Buy his
Yeah.
prints.
That's one of my favorites there.
Oh, this is
A
cool.
lot of times people think this one is a painting. But no, this was at Chicano Park. The Impala was parked right there, right in front of the mural. I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
And this is ChicanoSoul.myshopify.com, ladies and gentlemen. The
Or
links.
go to ChicanoSoul.net. That'll
Okay.
take you to this. But
Oh,
if
there
you
we
scroll
go.
down there, if you scroll down, you'll see George Lopez's car. Scroll down a little bit more. More. Right there.
Ooh, oh, wow.
Yeah, so we did
There it
that. It's a
is.
beautiful roof. So I knew I had to get that one.
Wow.
But that was fun.
ChicanoSoul.net. All the links to Art's page, Chicano Soul, will be down at the show description. Thanks for listening. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming out, dude. I
Thank you so
appreciate it. I
much.
see it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't bad at all. I had a lot of fun. Thank you. Could have gone longer, but
Next time we gotta have it.
Yeah, next time. No, maybe when
the
it's not
winter.
when it's not 1,000,000 degrees outside.
We're literally sweating in here.
Oh, so if you scroll up a little bit, that's the photo that War used. The two cars, it's called At Odds.
Oh, okay.
this one.
Those two cars, and you got the cop
Oh,
car
the
there.
cop car.
Yeah, they wanted that one. They put their tour dates above it. Huge honor for me.
Very cool. Over there, buy some prints.
Buy some stuff.
The Mind Buzz Podcast.
Boom. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.